I don't think submission is this. Your husband says jump off a bridge, and then you jump off a bridge. That's not. You would not be in contravention of being submissive if you're like, no, I'm not going to jump off a bridge. Or if your husband said, okay, sell these drugs or be a dude.
I would never be around someone like that.
What's that?
I would never be around someone like that. So.
But let me ask you this. Your husband says, well, let's say it's your boyfriend. Your boyfriend says, when we get married, you're taking my last name. Well, first off, let me ask, would you take your husband's last name?
No.
What about...
Okay, now we're getting somewhere. So you wouldn't take his last name?
No.
Just to be clear, you want to get married though, right?
Eventually, yes.
Question for you. If it's the perfect guy, he's the perfect guy. Most of us won't get the perfect partner ever. Would you take his last name then?
I still think that's a no.
So, question for you: would you hyphenate? Are you going to hyphenate, or are you going to keep your last name?
I'd be open to it. That sounds like a compromise.
What if he's a billionaire?
No.
But he can help your career.
What if bro, you wouldn't take any man's name?
I just said I would be open to hyphenating.
Can I ask you
What
a
about
question?
your father's last name?
Well, that was by.
Let me ask you a question on a couple questions on this. So you said you're old school and traditional.
In certain aspects, not all.
Okay, so you're picking and choosing. It's like it's a buffet. You get to pick and choose. Oh, I like this. Don't like that. Well, okay, there's some criticisms there, but so okay, you're picking and choosing. So, what do you consider traditional or modern? Hyphenation, or like how do you categorize these? Hyphenation,
yeah, that definitely.
Or what's traditional?
That would be definitely like if I was to not take his last name, that's not traditional. I can agree with that.
Okay, cool. How about this? I'm trying to think of another example here.
Would it be icky if he demanded to take your last name? He just demanded it.
I would say yeah, because that's just why do I have to do something out of demanding? Like
a couple questions for you. Do you want guys to pay for? I might have been gone when you guys talked about this. You want a guy to pay for first dates?
They don't have to, but if they do, that's a great look.
It's a plus. Do you want a guy who's a protector?
Yeah.
You want a guy who's a provider?
Yes, if you can.
You want a guy who's a leader?
Yes.
Okay. When it comes to the protection component, would you have an expectation, even on the first date or deeper into the relationship, that if you guys are walking along the sidewalk, that the guy is walking closer to the road where the cars are?
That's being a protector.
Protector. And would you expect this on the first date?
I would notice if he doesn't. So
okay,
yes.
But it would be something you'd want in a relationship.
Yeah, of course.
And then you'd want him to protect you in other circumstances.
Yeah.
Okay. So just to be clear, you want old school. Do you want the guy to be old school and traditional in all the ways that men are typically old school and traditional?
I guess so.
Well, in the way that,
you want your
well, in the
cake
way that
and eat it
benefits
too.
Total double
her.
standard.
In the
you
ways
want
that
your cake
benefits
and
her.
eat it too, yeah.
Right. And so just to be clear though, so you want a guy to essentially be willing to die for you, but you won't take his last name?
I think die for me. That's like I never said that.
But
I
isn't
said
that
he's protecting you?
Isn't that the even the walking closer to the where the cars are in the road?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that an entailment of that very thing? Is he's willing to essentially put his life at risk to the point of death to protect you?
That's a valid question. I see your point of view, but I think at the end of the day, I would want to be with someone who would, if I said no to them and then I explained why, they would be understanding.
So you want to have the conversation. Like you
Yeah,
want to
of
have a
course.
conversation with the guy.
Yeah, yeah.
You want to explain to him why, despite him being traditional and old school, why he needs to accept your modernity.
Yes, of
Okay,
course.
cool. So what if he wants to start having conversations with you about his traditional gender expectations? For example, babe, I want to have a conversation about who's going to pay. And
Yes.
it sounds like you're okay with that one. So, but he wants to have a conversation of, I'd actually prefer if you walked closer to the road so that you could conceivably get run over by a car.
Because he's modern.
instead of
He's a
me. He's a
modern
modern
man.
guy.
I would not.
You wouldn't like
No.
that. Okay.
I wouldn't.
Okay. And,
So you want an Italian hot mess that doesn't want you to take his last name, but is traditional in all the ways that you want.
okay. So what does the traditional old school guy get?
What do you mean get?
Well, so if we're going to lay out some of the
You
things
get access
that,
to a pop star.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
A rising,
there you go.
right?
Pop star?
Access to a rising pop star is what.
So if we lay out the things that you want, so you want old school traditional guy, so the entailment there is going to be protecting and providing you. I think being willing to and potentially dying for somebody, that seems like a pretty...
return, is what you're saying?
What's
like,
that?
What do they get in return?
Yeah, what do they get that specifically you would be bringing?
Okay. I provide, I guess, the term submission. Like, I do love to be feminine. I do love to take care of people.
Okay, nurturing, sure.
Yeah, nurturing. I would say I love to cook. I'm a cooker. So,
Cooking,
yeah, I would
cleaning.
provide that. Being able to
So
organize.
if he told you to make a sandwich, you would do it?
Oh, that's so rude. Like in a like a rude way. Like, you
No,
know?
it was the most polite, charitable way one could
I feel
say,
like people,
make a sandwich.
men who are like against feminism would always say like, go make me a sandwich in the
feminist?
kitchen. Yes, I would say so.
Okay. And
I would cook for the man, but if he's like immediately going into the relationship expecting me to cook for him,
Yeah, he
and
expected
being
it.
like, well, you have to build trust. You can't just come into a relationship.
Wait. Build trust. On the first date, he's supposed to risk his life walking you on the sidewalk.
He doesn't have to risk his life. It's nice if he would.
It's nice if you made a sandwich.
nice if you die.
Well, if he's saying to me, "Hey, go in the kitchen and make me a sandwich," that's like rude. I feel like that's what men
Okay,
say.
what if he was like,
I think it's rude that he has to ask.
I
What-
mean,
Why?
in this exchange, right, like, it would be rude if she said, walk on the sidewalk side for me, right? Like, everyone would agree, like, damn, that's, like, fucking bitchy, right? I think we would all agree that would be, like, a pretty bitch
Right,
move.
well-
It'd also be really socially weird on a first date.
I don't
to be
know,
like,
actually.
Go make me a sandwich.
Actually-
I'd be like, you have no social skills. I don't know about this
I
one,
actually
Chief.
disagree with that. I think if a man was like not aware of it and the woman was like, "What are you doing? Like, protect me." Like, I think a man would actually be responsive to that.
Yeah, maybe, but in general, I think
mean-
men are a lot better at rolling with, like, criticism than women often
yeah,
are.
I'll engage with that. So, I mean, okay, so you're saying the guy should just do it. Okay, so the woman should
I don't,
just make
to
the
be clear.
sandwich.
Just to be clear, I don't give a
We
fuck.
shouldn't
about
have to
men
tell her
walking
to
on
make the
side.
sandwich. She should just preemptively know to make the sandwich.
Well, here's where I would argue with the feminists.
She's nodding.
Here's where I'd argue with the feminist
You're
side.
in favor of the sandwich making.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, I would say if you have certain, like, traditional chivalrous expectations that would be an immediate ick if, like, not foreseen, and you don't give any grace in between,
Mm-hmm.
but you expect high levels of grace in return, you're creating a very losing situation for all men, which is shitty to do. It's a shitty thing to do. However, if you have mutual grace and discuss these things, so for example, there's lots of things that my husband will ask me to do all the time, and I'm happy to do it, right? He might just be like sitting down watching TV and be like, hey, can you go get me a drink? Yeah, of course I can, right?
Mm-hmm.
But part of the exchange is that when he's up, I can also ask him to do the same. But that's something that we've also
Did
spoken
you take
about.
his last name?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just want to point out that even the way in which we're discussing this is in a very particular way. It's purely individualistic. Whereas if we're really talking about tradition, it used to be the case that women and men were actually raised that this is just what you do. So you actually just do this sandwich making, and you actually want to do it, right? Because it's part of a larger structure that's more valuable than your own individual preferences. Even as we discuss this, it's like, well, what's the contract? I think the important thing is to sit down and make a contract. And this is all modernity playing out. When we're talking about traditionalism, it's kind of a joke to ask anyone, no offense, but asking you about traditionalism, you're just like, you're taking it like it's like you're at a salad bar and you're like, here's some cucumbers. And what the traditional perspective is that the tradition is the entire room. It's not just salad. It's not the salad bar. And you're
But the
able to
room's
pick.
changed. I think the issue that we have with modernity dating is that the room is changed, right? The problem with the banquet table is that now for the man to even be able to go to the table, this is going to break down immediately. I'll just say this. In the past, men could just work and make enough money for both of them and run the household. For most
But then
men,
feminism happened.
Well,
And
no.
then all the women went into the work and then lowered the dollar.
War happened, and but if we didn't have women go into the workplace, our GDP would have never competed,
poor
and if we didn't
GDP.
shift
It's
away
only
from the
that
gold
matters.
backing,
It's the
we
Only
would
thing
have.
that matters, the GDP.
The GDP is so fundamental for like everything when it comes to a nation state, because if you don't have a competitive GDP,
And you
your
have
enemies
no-
are able to stomp you.
What is your
That's super
nation if
important.
it's not bound in something bigger than the GDP?
But it's usually bound in some level of like civic nationality, which is going to be the bigger thing. But
You mean like duties?
no, more like patriotism, like love for country, not duties.
Yeah, but what's the identity of the country? GDP up?
No, it's like American.
Why
Like,
don't we
like,
swap
I'm an American.
Why don't we swap the flag with GDP up? With the thumbs up
I know
sign.
that you think this is good because it's like one of your memes, but it's nobody thinks this. GDP is important, if you don't understand, for being able to be competitive with your enemies so that they don't destroy you. When it comes to like a relationship and what we're talking about, we have this issue where the economy is so different now that men can't bring to the table sole providership by and large. Some can, and those ones I think do get to make different concessions and negotiations on the relationship. But by and large, men have to say, I need you to come to the table for economic income too. And that necessarily means that women get to have more negotiation power for what the relationship looks like and what they want in return.